Okay, so now I want to respond to the question about if anything's helped or made things worse along the way. Easiest to talk about things that have made things worse. Perhaps in the I'm going to start with that because really that's I feel like I had a huge, it wasn't a dip, a catastrophic fall. Before then I've had something that has been a thankful recovery really. So there's lots of things that I could talk about that I've kind of got some awareness of probably where things have happened in my life or things about my life going back a long way that I know or believe contributed to how I got to the situation I did do. I was in a situation where there was some combination of things about not thinking it's a good idea to really talk to anybody about how I'm feeling for myself, which is absolutely ridiculous for a psychologist whose trade is built upon the idea that actually it's very useful to talk to people. But I couldn't. I found it really hard to do that for myself. I couldn't do that for myself. I didn't, and that's something that I really hadn't done very well, possibly for most of my life. In combination with the fact that I think I'd actually kept going for as long as I had done before reaching the crisis that I spoke about in my first video. I'd kept going that long because I was constantly striving. I had this idea that as long as I was working to be the best at whatever, then that was okay. It could be tolerable that I wasn't doing as well as I thought I should be because I was working towards the best, and that included being best dad, best husband, best psychologist, best lecturer, best researcher, whatever it be, best human, frankly. I had these, but the thing that wasn't helpful for me was that I had those standards that I kept on striving for, and there was something that happened that made me realise I wasn't meeting those standards. And before I'd got to the chance of realising it was bloody stupid to have those standards, I guess I'd fallen into the darkness that I spoke about before. It's weird because one of the things that actually, although I said before, I kind of, it was a year ago, I had this kind of like breakdown thinking about what lay ahead of me for when I went back to work. And it was at that point that I decided that I was going to access therapy. I didn't start any therapy for over 6-7 months after that period, 7-8 months. And something about knowing that I was going to be doing that actually made things worse for me. I think it almost like having made that decision sort of opened the floodgates, and that acceptance that I wasn't keeping it together anymore meant that the one thing that I knew how to do, which was to keep myself in and just keep the strong front going, I wasn't doing, at least for myself. And that then meant, I think, that these kind of floodgates opened and these overwhelming feelings overtook. And I don't know if they would have ever happened if I hadn't reached that decision. And I don't think it was wrong that I decided to do that, but it's just, for me, it's been interesting to notice that and when it fits from the other side of the chair, thinking about how people have to wait for the help that they need for all sorts of reasons, only one of which may be their own issues of the sort I'm talking about, and many of which will be to do with the way services are set up or funded or whatever it would be. I think that's it brings a stark reality to me of just how awful that is. So those are the things that sort of really made things worse. What helped was, it's undoubted that actually the decision that actually once I'd started my counselling, it made a huge difference to me. I'm incredibly lucky. I talk more in the video about services but I'm incredibly lucky that I didn't actually, because of stuff that I've gone through before in my professional training. I think that's why I actually ended up not needing a huge amount of actual sessions in the therapy. So I remember the first couple of sessions I had were remained really scary, because I just didn't know how to. I couldn't see how this was going to make a difference, and all I could see was stretching out in front of me at least probably another 16 years of feeling this awful until all my kids were grown up, and then I'd know that it would no longer be more harmful than not for me to kill myself. But that process, starting therapy, I'm so glad that I did do, because it then meant that changes happened. And there's stuff there about what the counsellor did, undoubtedly, with the way that he listened and things of that sort. What I think actually made the most difference for me was that I then, having started this counselling, having begun to face things myself, there was after one particular session where I'd left with this dreadful sense of what was going to happen, and I remember sitting, deciding not to get my tram, my bus home immediately, because I thought I need to think about something. I need to do something, and being sat there waiting to work out, and this sounds really petty, but it was a massive thing for me to not be doing the next thing, getting the bus home as soon as I could, to be doing what I need to do, all this kind of stuff. So stopping, and then at that point I called a friend who I'm very lucky, because I've got some good friends from going back to my childhood days that I was able to have some trust in, and I knew this guy had also been through stuff. I didn't know exactly what. We'd never really spoken about it in a very open kind of way, but somehow I knew that he would be able to listen to me. So I called him, and I told him something of what, it's funny, I didn't tell him quite how devastating, but I just told him that I was struggling. And then over the next couple of days we spoke a couple of times, and he's a father of kids as well, and he goes through these doubts about himself in a different kind of way, but I don't know, that reaching out to a friend and being listened to by a friend, and a friend who before, when he could tell that I was calling and that I had stuff to say that was really hard for me to say, he just said, he was able to immediately go, look mate, whatever it is that's going on, you don't have to tell me, or you can tell me whatever, but just know that, we can all go there in different ways, we've all been there in different ways, and I don't know, there's just something about the way he was with me that made it feel okay, and somehow gave me permission to be able to consider the alternative ideas about to where my mind was at that point. The fact that I was absolutely set on being of net harm to the world and everyone around me, and that somehow, not that he did any mind-changing strategies or anything of that sort, it just opened up the possibilities for me, and that was the thing really. That was the biggest catalyst then to the change for me, and the recovery. From then on, I've, where possible, also continued to talk openly to people who I could trust, and now obviously more people. I don't know if I can trust you, I hope so. But I think that kind of openness and being able to talk to other people, and importantly actually with this group of friends that I have, kind of since I started talking a little bit about it, actually it's incredible how many of these also white, middle class, British, mid-30s sort of men are prepared to and able to relate to the feelings that I've been speaking about, and being able to share and help each other in that way, which is, I guess, surprised me and been really good. I think that it helped that I was able to make decisions to see about being able to do things differently and recognise where things came from. And for me, that's what unlocked being able to start the recovery.